Welcome, everybody, to the April 2025 edition of Streets for All Happy Hour. We're really excited to have the Deputy Mayor of Infrastructure for the City of Los Angeles, Randall Winston, as our special guest. Randall, thank you for being here. Before we get to our conversation with Randall, we're going to give you an update on our state efforts, a little quick thing about Measure HLA and the City of LA's budget, neighborhood council elections, and go over a few wins and fails of the month. Our icebreaker this time, hopefully it's interesting for our guest, is if you could wave a wand, what is your infrastructure wish for the city of Los Angeles? And I'm going to turn it over to Mark to answer that question and give us a state update. And actually, I'm noticing that Mark is not yet on. Oh, there he is. Mark, over to you.
Hey everyone, Mark Fuchsovich, Director of State Policy for Streets for All. My magic wand, luckily not a City of Los Angeles project, at least to my knowledge, it would be Link Union Station. I would love a fully built out Link Union Station with electrified rail track in prep for high-speed rail and just moving our trains faster. And so, yeah, would love a fully built out Link Union Station. So anyways, want to give an update on the legislature. So right now, in terms of the legislature, we're in the first House Policy Committee. So first House meaning if it's an Assembly bill, it's in the Assembly. If it's in the Senate bill, it's in the Senate. It still has to go through its first or even second policy committee, our bills, and then they go through the fiscal committee and then the first House vote, and then they move on to the second House, all before they can even get to the governor's desk. So that's where we're at, in terms of the legislative process. And then here are our bills. I talked about these last week and we announced them, I think 1 or 2 or 3 weeks ago. But so just to kind of go through them very briefly, AB 981 in the sort of middle top by Assemblymember Mike Gibson is a bill that would require speed limiting devices for reckless drivers and people who have convictions, reckless driving, reckless speeding, etc. That bill is going to be heard in Assembly Public Safety Committee on April 22nd. For SB 79, our bill by Senator Wiener, this is a transit-oriented development bill to get more housing built near transit. It's going to be heard in Senate Housing Committee on April 22nd. For SB 445, there's no major updates there. We currently are going to be heard on Senate Trans on April 22nd, but that potentially could change. For SB 720, this bill would improve the California red light camera program, which has had a lot of issues. It's authored by Senator Ashby, and yesterday, when I was in Sacramento, it passed the Senate Transportation Committee 12-0. It still is going on to Senate Judiciary next. SB 358 by Senator Becker reduces mitigation fees for housing that's near transit. It's going to be going to Senate Local Government Committee probably near the end of the month. SB 445 by Senator Blakespear deals with this issue of out-of-class e-bikes, electric e-bikes, and electric motorcycles, and tries to really make it kind of clear what is legal on our streets. It's probably going to be heard in Senate Trans towards the end of the month. AB 382, our school zones bill, second year in the row running the bill with Assemblymember Mark Berman, who is a hoot, by the way. He stopped by our dinner the other day. It's going to Assembly Transportation on April 21st. And last but not least, AB 1085, our bill by Assemblymember Stephanie, which would increase the penalties on selling illegal license plate covers to $10,000 per unit sold to the Amazons, the eBays, the Walmarts that are selling these illegal license plate covers. That bill is going to Assembly Transportation on April 21st. If anyone comes up to Sacramento or wants to watch the hearings, we just sent out an email today where you can watch the hearings. That's it from me. I'll pass it to Michael.
Thanks, Mark. My magic wand for LA is probably on the more boring side, but it'd be super impactful. We have a tendency to outsource everything. We hire consultants, and it slows everything down and makes everything more expensive. I would love to do more things in-house. I would love to repave streets and stripe streets and do major capital projects much more in-house than outsourcing. It would really save a lot of money and speed things up. So quick update on Measure HLA. Just a reminder, the draft implementation ordinance passed February 26th at committee. It passed full council last month. We're now waiting on the city attorney to turn it around with the changes requested by the committee and come back around. And last week, the Street Standards Committee passed the standard elements for HLA. We are currently working behind the scenes to try to rectify the situation that happened on Vermont. Metro does not think that HLA applies to it with regards to the Vermont project, but it's on City of LA right away. We disagree. A court may need to decide, but we're hoping we can rectify that and get a bike lane on Vermont. And the other thing I want to point out is in the Street Standards Committee, the city is saying that a bus lane checks the box for a bike lane. And if both are planned on the same street. We don't agree with that. Bus lane is bus infrastructure, not bike infrastructure. And we hope to make some progress there too. Quickly on the city budget, we told everyone last month, we sent this letter, a coalition letter to the mayor's office. The mayor's budget does come out in 11 days and it will set the tone and is really important. We want to see funding for safer streets, HLA, Olympics prep, etc. We'll see if Randall wants to talk about this at all, but we're hopeful that that budget, despite the city's great financial condition, prioritizes people and making the streets safer. I will turn it over to Josh to talk about neighborhood councils.
Thank you, Michael. As far as infrastructure projects, mine's not transportation related, but I live in K-Town, which is one of the most park-poor neighborhoods in Los Angeles, and our city is falling behind many other peer cities when it comes to park space access. So I just wish that we had more parks, we had bigger parks, and we had parks closer to where people live. But I'm going to talk about neighborhood council elections. So these are ongoing. This is a multi-month process. For anyone that doesn't know, neighborhood councils are the closest democracy to the people, and they're very important when it comes to moving transportation and housing projects forward. So they're important to a lot of things that Streets for All works on. Voting in these is kind of weird. You don't register normally. You don't automatically get registered or anything. You have to go through a specific process. And there's all these different calendar stages of when you can register for your zone and when you can vote. So anyone, if you go to the next slide, anyone 18 can run as long as they either live, work, worship, own property, or have kids in school in that district. So there's kind of a broad category of things that you can do inside of the district and still qualify. Timing of things, we just finished Region 11 and we won a great slate here in Northwestwood. This could be really impactful, especially with all the Sepulveda transit line stuff going on right now. If you go to the next slide, these are the upcoming things that you need to be worried about as far as neighborhood council timing. Region 5, if you haven't requested your ballot, it's too late, but this is a reminder to go out and vote. You have until April 15th. Region 6, which is Little Tokyo, Downtown, Westlake, and K-Town. You need to request your ballot before April 14th, which is just in 3 days. And then you need to vote by April 22nd. Region 7, you have a little bit more time. This is Echo Park and Silver Lake. You need to request your ballot by April 21st, and you need to vote by April 29th. If you're looking for people in your race to vote for, or if you want our endorsement, you can go to streetsforall.org/2025 neighborhood council elections, and we have endorsements there. You can apply to be endorsed by Streets for All, and we have some resources if you want to learn more. Next, we're going to go to wins and fails of the month. So the first one, Michael kind of already mentioned this, but it's both a win and a fail. Metro has approved the Vermont BRT plan. It's moving forward without any bike lanes. This is a major win for transit riders. It's one of the highest ridership transit corridors in the county. It's probably the most important bus project on the entire West Coast. It's going to be hugely impactful. At the exact same time, Vermont is also quite literally the most dangerous street in the city of Los Angeles when it comes to people killed and injured. And so it's really disheartening that Metro is moving forward with the project without including basic safety improvements like bike lanes in accordance with HLA and also in accordance with their own active transportation plan. I'm going to hand it over to Kyle to talk about some more wins and fails.
Turned out there's only one meeting. The other meeting is next week.
Gosh. I'm gonna double down on the parks suggestion. That will be my main thing. Which, you know, with kids, I had more green space, especially in South LA. That will be a big boom to the city in my eyes. And so happy to talk about this win where we've recently announced our partnership with Redshift Sports. If you've checked out their website, you see they have a bunch of cool stuff to retrofit your bike with. You can see in the slide, they have these cool lighted pedals that look really nice at night. And so for all of our members in the members club, you now get a 15% discount on merch from here. So encouraging everybody that has been on the fence about getting a membership to join. We'll continue to build out our partner network, hopefully, and have some cool stuff for all of those who choose to join. Next, over to Kirsten.
Yeah, my infrastructure wish would be to have at least one tree next to every bus.
Farming or
And unfortunately, I only have a fail to report, which is that for the North Hollywood to Pasadena bus rapid transit project, which has been in the works for almost a decade, the class 4 bike lanes have been removed from the Glenoaks portion of the project, which is actually the longest segment of the whole BRT project. So if it was implemented, it would be the second longest class 4 bike lane in the county. And it would connect downtown Burbank to downtown Glendale. And it seems that this decision was made because there would be a 30% loss of on-street parking, which is still a questionable number. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but yeah, Metro has told us it's not too late for the city of Glendale to change their mind and prioritize safety over parking. So we hope that they do.
Over to Katrina.
Thanks, everyone. Hi, everyone. My name is Katrina, and I live in West LA. My wish for infrastructure in the city of LA is I really liked the phase 2 of the Slow Streets program. For those of you who haven't heard of it before, it was where you could get comprehensive traffic calming installed on residential streets with quick build infrastructure. This included things like, crosswalk enhancement, quick build roundabouts, quick build chicanes, which are like bollard medians, and then like 15 miles per hour or slower signage all over the slow streets infrastructure areas. I would love to see that everywhere in the city on a residential street. But I'm here to talk a little bit more about the HLA standard elements. This was a vote that was taken in the City Planning Commission. And as Michael alluded to earlier, it includes a couple of things that mobility advocates like us still have some issues with. One is the shared bus bike lane. Anyone who's ridden a bike in a bus lane knows it's really stressful when there's a bus behind you trying to pass. And anyone who's been on a bus in a shared bus bike lane knows that the presence of bicyclists in one of those lanes means that it's a lot slower for that bus and the bus has to go out in traffic. It's really not a great solution for either transit riders or bike riders. And we'd like to see more imagination on that. But stay tuned for more advocacy. And back over to Michael.
Thanks, Katrina. One win, SCAG officially voted to approve a project we have been working so hard on, the Ballona Creek bike path extension. And this is a total of $7 million that is going to go towards getting the project shovel ready. I feel like in most countries, you could just build the path for $7 million, but this is Los Angeles. So we're going to get it shovel ready. And then we're really looking forward to working with the city and finding construction money. So we're very excited about this. It will be formalized at a California Transportation Commission meeting June 26th. But if history is any guide, this will be approved since it's recommended by Metro and SCAG. Lastly, we were really disappointed that Council members Lee and Park introduced a resolution to oppose our sponsored bill with Scott Wiener, SB 79. We have an affordable housing crisis. The only way out of it is to build a lot more housing of all types. And it's really smart to build more of it near high quality transit. So we hope this doesn't go anywhere, their opposition, and we hope SB 79 passes. Quick reminder, members program is great. As Kyle said, we have a new perk and we have a members event, members only event coming up soon, streetsval.org/members. And a quick preview for next month, we're going to be just doing something a little bit different. We have a candidate running for city attorney, Marissa Roy. That will be Wednesday, May 21st at 5 p.m. So I'm very excited to welcome Randall Winston to Streets for All Happy Hour. Randall serves as Deputy Mayor of Infrastructure for the City of Los Angeles, where he leads Mayor Bass's efforts to repair our streets, sidewalks, parks, and public spaces, including developing the first comprehensive multi-year plan for maintaining and funding the city's capital infrastructure in preparation for the Olympics and Paralympic Games and other major events, probably the World Cup too. Randall serves on the boards of UCLA's Institute of the Environment and Sustainability and UC Berkeley's Center for Law, Energy, and the Environment. He received a BA in government from Harvard University, a Master of Architecture degree from the University of Virginia, and a JD degree from UC Berkeley School of Law. I just felt very undereducated reading that bio. So welcome, Randall, and I'm going to pass it over to Katrina for our first question.
Thanks so much. With that, our first question is about the overall state of LA infrastructure, in your opinion. People in LA like to complain about broken sidewalks, non-existent curb ramps, and failed streets in general. But we're interested to know, what's your take and how would you rate LA's infrastructure overall? Are you happy with where we're at compared to peer cities around the world?
Katrina, thank you for that question. And first off, Michael, thank you for inviting me here this evening. It's really great to be here and to spend some time sharing where we're at and where we're going. I maybe can first, if I could, Katrina, answer the question that others got to answer with the waving the magic wand, and you kind of actually led into it. If I had a magic wand, and this kind of struck me when I first started the role here in the mayor's office, it would be to repair and put up to code or make up to code all of our sidewalks and access ramps. The condition of our sidewalks is pretty deplorable, as you all know. We are way behind on the repairs that we need to make. And maybe more to the point, now that we're kind of required to make the repairs in a certain schedule, it slows down other improvements that we need to make in our right of way, including those that we all want to see and have committed to improving through Mobility 2035. So that would be the magic wand. But to answer your question, Katrina, I'll sort of begin maybe with just a message of hope. I mean, we are Los Angeles. I do think that despite the ups and downs of this city historically, in terms of at times being put in, places of fears of doom and gloom and impending disasters or crises, to being on the world stage and at the global center of things coming up in 26 and 2028. We are a resilient city, and the talent in this place is immeasurable, I think, and I continue to just be sort of inspired by it. My graduate work was, when I did architecture, was on LA, and even though I was in another part of the country, that's when I sort of became newly obsessed with this city. And so I think that my hope in what we are and what will be, I want to say is boundless. That being said, we have a long way to go in infrastructure. I've said this, publicly numerous times, and I think some of you probably heard me say it, and we are the only city, major city, that doesn't have a 5-year infrastructure plan. And I think that has led to a lot of the problems that we see in our right of way. The condition of our sidewalks, our streets, our street lights, our street trees, the list can go on. Our valiant and even, you might say, sort of nationally leading efforts to plan for the best, dating back to 2015 and before that time, Mobility 2035. I'm saying, things that you all know well, and yet not seeing, I think, the implementation that many Angelenos, and maybe you all would like to see from those planning efforts. So we need to do a better job, I think, of budgeting for and implementing the projects that we all want to see, and more to the point, that our policies have kind of set us in the direction for. And that's what we're doing. Out of the gate with my time here in the mayor's office, and speaking with the mayor and developing some of the initial executive orders in this space, there was one focused on customer service, and then more recently on revamping entirely how the city delivers projects in the right of way, in addition to an infrastructure plan, looking at historically how we have not, the specific ways that we have not delivered projects as efficiently as we could. Everything from, again, sidewalks to mobility plan elements, and how can we do that differently? So we, amongst our bureaus, our DOT, Metro, other entities, we are right now in the midst of reforming how we deliver projects to do so more efficiently and hopefully at lower cost and greater speed. We have a long way to go to get there. I don't want to sort of say it's not obviously a tremendous task. I know that, you know, skepticism runs high and the skepticism is due, but look, I mean, the proof will need to be in the delivery of the work. We'll have our first CIP that will be focused on the games at the end of this calendar year, and, you know, continue the work from there.
Thanks. Over to Josh.
Thank you. I think this is an extension of what you were just talking about and probably will kind of weave its way into every single question and answer. But my question's about the Olympics. In 3 short years, we are hosting the 2028 Olympics and Paralympic Games. You were in Paris with the mayor last year, and you've also traveled to other cities around the world. This has been billed as a car-free Olympics, but the city is quite behind making transit, bike, and pedestrian improvements needed to make that a reality. What do you think we can learn from other cities and improve how we do things here? Do you think we will actually accomplish a car-free Olympics? And if so, how do you think we can accelerate projects to make it a reality?
Very good question. And the time in Paris when I was there with the mayor and others, eye-opening and just sort of, it was also sort of sobering because of the, you know, the scale of the games in the Paralympic Games in Paris. Once you sort of see it in the flesh, as it were, the concrete, the improvements that they made on their streets, their bike lanes, obviously the Seine, was impressive. Doesn't even begin to capture it. Also, you know, they had in Paris, the city and their organizing body, which would be akin to our LA28, they conducted deep dive workshops, kind of lifting the hood on the mechanics of how they put together the different components of their games, the challenges that they faced insofar as funding, organization, working with what was sort of their the heads of their arrondissements, which were kind of akin to our council, city council, not a perfect graph, but akin to it. All of that, I think, imparted some tremendous lessons for us here in LA. You know, since that time, and I'll get to kind of your question. The mayor's brought on board, as you all know, a former council president, director Paul Krikorian, to stand up our Office of Major Events. Paul Krikorian and I have since that time kind of been really deep into, you know, not just thinking through, you know, all of the improvements that we want to bring to the games, but honing, you know, what is the vision insofar as the legacy of the games. This gets to not just sort of a car-free games, but the other components that the mayor would like to see, our council would like to see, and Angelinos would like to see. This is the 3rd time, as you know, we're one of the few cities in the world who hosted the Olympics for this many times. And I think that while the pressure is immense, I also, to bring it back to Paris, it was sobering, but it didn't feel as bad because they faced a similar degree of immense amount of pressure and feeling like there was not enough time to do everything that they needed to do. They pointed to us as LA as having the good fortune of, you can call it a good fortune, sort of a test with the World Cup coming up in 2026. I do think in 2026, it will give us an opportunity to kind of flex, as it were, how we might activate our park spaces and other spaces throughout the city for opportunities to bring fans and the public together, bring them into the games. But for FIFA, but again, looking towards the games. So I think there's a lot to test still and a lot to come together. But again, as we starting with a longer term plan now, and identifying sources of funds, ensuring that in our budget we are planning accordingly. Not only do I think that we can get there, but I do think that this will be, the greatest games that we have seen. Our partnerships are coming together anew. Here in the mayor's office, we also did bring on board a new individual, deputy mayor, for partnerships, Amanda Dafflos, who's starting to marshal some of our philanthropic, really all of our philanthropic partners and resources to bring to bear on the games, other major events, to ensure that we're finding ways to fill those funding gaps, and meet the needs, which again you're referring to. So there's a lot of work to be done, a whole lot of work to be done, but hopeful that we'll get there.
Great, thank you. Over to Michael next.
Thanks. So Randall, this is about HLA. Measure HLA passed last year, as you know, with nearly 2/3 of the vote. Angelinos, contrary to the popular political wisdom, want things like bike lanes, bus lanes, and pedestrian improvements. Since then, the city has moved quite slowly. It has yet to adopt an implementation ordinance. It's also done things that we don't see eye to eye on, such as a bus lane being okay in lieu of a bike lane just to protect parking spaces, or not working with Metro to make sure Metro projects are HRA compliant. We want to work with the city in good faith. It's been a little challenging. Wanted to hear from you. What do you see for the future of Measure HLA? Do you think we can get to a place where the city and Metro are following the will of the voters and we're moving quickly to make the streets safer? It was really all about road safety.
So I do. I can't fully speak for Metro, of course, but I think insofar as the city and our city leadership, I mean, we have to. I think it's yes, there are differences of opinion between our city council, the city attorney, the county council, and I don't want to kind of elide those differences, but we need to work through them because we need to make our streets not just safer, but fill out as you noted, Michael, the will of the voters and the vision for mobility 2030-35. I think we're always going to look to because the devil will be in the details. It is in the details as we go from what was the planning vision to the specific projects, sort of street by street, network by network. I think we'll have to strengthen our partnerships and coordinations both internally across the city and our city partners like Metro, and of course with you all and the stakeholder community. And many times I think, at least initially, project by project, and that's because I think that the initial, this is to my mind, the city's mind, the measure, as I think path-breaking and pioneering as it was, left a good amount that still needed to be worked out in its implementation. That has been the drafting of the ordinance, and I know that you've all been following that closely, and that was necessary work. And I think in this initial stage, getting on the same page, even though there will be disagreements, but at least getting consensus around what is required and what's not required, which triggers HLA, which does not. It's a really important step towards the future. Now, that being said, with where we are in the budget, yes, dollars are constrained, and I can tell you that the work that is coming forth to implement Mobility 2035 under HLA, we are doing all in our power to align with our other project-related work, infrastructure-related work, including sidewalk repairs, access ramp repairs, street resurfacing, and our preparation for major events. So it really all needs to be of a piece as we look to kind of maximize our resources. And so I think HLA it is driving and will continue to drive the work. We need to do a better job, to call us out, of coordinating and making it happen more quickly, delivering more quickly. And I know and want to recognize that is very much an ongoing challenge.
Thank you. Over to Katrina.
Well, thanks so much. Next question is back on the topic of budgeting. So when the mayor took office, there was a lot of momentum to see some change in the city, but since then the city's financial outlook has worsened between labor contracts and fire response costs, and basic services are struggling. Michael mentioned earlier that Streets for All sent a coalition letter asking for specific investments to speed up street safety. With the mayor's budget coming out very soon, can you give us a sneak peek in terms of what to expect in terms of funding for safer, more multimodal streets or other transportation infrastructure?
So recently, I have not been in the latest budget discussions. So any sneak peek, I'd be not in a position to give. Particularly as now we're in the stage where between our CEO and the mayor and those on our budget team are kind of really drilling down on ways to fill the gap. And as you might expect, there are conversations happening. For instance, at the state, the mayor took a trip to Sacramento recently in order to fill some of our the gap, our funding needs. So that's a very dynamic discussion.
I guess that's the follow-up.
But that being said, go ahead, Christina, go ahead.
How much do you get to have input being the voice for transportation when it comes to the budgetary process?
Well, I was gonna answer that sort of. I wanted to start out by saying what I did have input in, and I'll kind of get to what what I don't have input in, and get to what I do, because certainly in terms of setting the priorities and where we need to go from the infrastructure and transportation standpoint, that is very much what myself, my colleagues, and my team what we do. It kind of aligns with what was said earlier on. Number one, we feel strongly that we have to be thinking this year about other years. That's a really straightforward way of putting it, right? Like one of our challenges has been in a sort of thinking about a single year budget in a single year and trying to sort of throw everything in at that time, and not actually thinking long term about our funding beyond 25, 26. We need to get out. We have to get out of that cycle, especially with these major events coming up. So that is maybe first and foremost what our team has been focused on. Thinking about, for instance, the Olympic and Paralympic Games, not just about the funding requests that we have for this 25, 26, but beyond through 28 and beyond 28. So for the next 5 years, this is looking at a radius around every venue, the projects and infrastructure improvements that we believe to be critical, both in terms of not just the major events, but the city's other goals are commitments from the Village 2035, Vision Zero, the improvements to transportation and our greater transportation networks that we know we need to make. So it's not necessarily new policy or new projects. It is kind of focusing in on what we believe to be most critical by way of projects in this year, 25, 26, and then what will get us to where we believe we need to be in preparation for 26, 27, 28, and apportioning our budget asks will be our budget asks accordingly. And so I think the timing of the decisions is the most important. Prioritizing infrastructure in this current budget year, and what we're most advocating for, again, thinking about the games and what absolutely needs to be in place from both a kind of, I would kind of describe as a basic needs standpoint in terms of the right of way for the games, and then beyond that. And when I say beyond that, we need to be clear-eyed about, okay, there's going to be trade-offs between what the council offices may desire or want, and that'll be a conversation. And then maybe most critically, what funds will be available or not available. And that's the dynamic element that I don't have insight into here and now.
Thank you. I have a question. We have a question about kind of the mayor's focus. When reading the mayor's State of the City update last December, She talked about progress on homelessness and crime and other things, but there was no mention of the record traffic deaths in our streets. We have a city where pedestrians injured every 5 hours, killed every 2 days. We don't want that to become just normalized. The mayor did issue ED9, which we were really excited about, but we haven't seen much progress on that since then. I haven't heard the mayor publicly call for pedestrian safety improvements or bike lanes or things like that. Where is the strong mayoral push for safer streets? Is she focused on this topic? And what sway do you have as deputy mayor for infrastructure to help change the status quo?
Absolutely, the mayor is focused on. I mean, look, it is top of mind and has to be top of mind, as you've noted, just given that the very severe situation which we find ourselves with on the unprecedented collisions and fatalities in the past year. You will see soon. You have, I think it's already been released, but if not, will be evaluation of Vision Zero, and both the CAO and the LADOT some time ago were charged with developing both a report, this is DOT's side, and the CAO, an evaluation of Vision Zero. You know, here we are a decade out, and you know, Michael, as you've referenced, the progress made, I mean, it kind of speaks for itself, really, the lack thereof. A lot of reasons for that, but it kind of, we are where we're at, and in terms of traffic safety, it's not good. So we knew, the mayor knew that we needed to take a kind of deep dive into understanding why traffic fatalities increased in the way that they have, in spite of the Vision Zero program and effort, and combining the efforts, and this was a specific mayoral direction, combining the efforts of our CAO and LADOT in those new recommendations. So what you'll see here soon is sort of new recommendations to, I think, I'll use the word revitalize, more kind of recast Vision Zero. What are the kind of the new learnings, both nationally and other jurisdictions, that we can bring to bear, new lessons learned from Vision Zero and other jurisdictions, what strategies work, what has not worked, and how we can implement them starting, you know, this year in LA. We know we need to, the mayor knows we need to take a new approach to making our streets safer, and that is what will be spelled out at a very specific level, as well as a new, I mean, we had called it, I think, a higher energy network prior, but a new analysis based upon where are the most fatalities and where we have the most challenges throughout the city. So you know, remains a priority. You mentioned ED9, and I know that you know, as I said, that the proof will be when the plan is released, and then we actually have budgets released, and then projects to deliver. But the mayor is absolutely committed to delivering.
Thank you. Over to Kyle.
Thanks, Michael. All right, so just have a question here about cost. You know, we haven't seen how a curb ramp, for example, a decade ago cost about $4 grand. But today we're spending, by our estimate, around 50 grand. And so, you know, you can see how something like this, it's gone up even more than inflation. We're also seeing like insane costs for other things, like curb extensions, speed humps, and of course bus and bike lanes, not to mention Metro's projects. On rail, for example, we spend 5 times per mile compared to Spain. Why do you think costs are so high here specifically? And is there anything we can do permitting wise or via some sort of reform to bring those costs down, so that we can actually like get some nice things in the city?
It's a very good question. Very good question. I would even separate out, you know, the costs for, you know, larger projects and the reasons that they have mushroom being metro projects and other kind of maybe large municipal facilities out of the city, from the cost escalations that we're seeing at a smaller scale, installation of a traffic light, or you mentioned speed hump, and obviously sidewalks, access ramps. One answer is in cost escalation through inflation and changes in our kind of goods movement supplies. That is real, and I know that those costs at a certain level are meaning cost escalations are borne out in other jurisdictions, at least in the United States. Again, at a certain level. For instance, was just in a call about some of our grants through ATP, and as you know, the city is behind delivering some of those projects. While you can say that some of the costs are maybe due to coordination among city departments, some of the cost escalation has to do with, again, increases in cost of materials and increases or lack of availability on the labor front, so folks who can actually do the work at scale. So a number of factors, but that being said, I think there's always more than we can, no more that we should do and that we can do. I think looking globally at it, and you mentioned Spain, I think it is frankly deservedly shocking to the general public that it takes so long to build in not just Los Angeles, but in California and in the United States. I don't think Los Angeles is exceptional, at least when it comes to this state and maybe our nation. We are looking at ways to directly reform our permitting processes in ways that we deliver projects. I think it's that simple. Most recently, and you'll see this kind of coming through hopefully council soon, but I can share it here. Years ago, the city had set up this Brown Act body, and I forget the acronym. You'll have to forgive me. It's TCTMC, a body that sort of set up zones where it gave council the ability to, major projects and not so major projects had to go through an approval for how many days traffic will be closed or not closed, essentially assessing traffic impacts, well-meaning, but here you have a Brown Act body that would take, in many instances, a decision that could be made in days, taking weeks because of the public notice process, all well-meaning and good, but unnecessarily using staff resources, administrative resources, time, and then with time, increase in costs on the project development side. That is a specific example of a part of the city's project development process that we're looking to reform. And there will be others. And frankly, welcome your feedback, Kyle and others, about ways that we can cut red tape that are not just within the mayor's control, but within the mayor's power from the building pulpit to push other entities to decrease sort of the time it takes to deliver projects.
Totally, thank you. We'll definitely have some ideas there.
Love to hear them.
Yeah.
Thank you. Two last quick questions, then we have some audience questions. I wanted to talk about Vista Del Mar publicly. In 2015, a woman was killed on Vista Del Mar in Playa Vista. The city settled a wrongful death lawsuit for $9 million. And DOT in 2017 reconfigured the street to make it safer. Later that year in 2017, then Mayor Eric Garcetti caved to pushback from a loud minority and overruled the councilmember Mike Bonin and directed DOT to put the street back to the way it was. In 2021, a woman was killed and her son was injured trying to cross that same street. In 2024, 2 teenagers were killed on the street. And last month, a car speeding lost control and crashed into the beach bike path below, killing a pedestrian. To me, Vista Del Mar exemplifies everything gone wrong in our city. Aside from the horrific loss of life, the city will pay out tens of millions of dollars and wrongful death claims while still leaving the street dangerous. To my knowledge, there's no plans to fix it. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. How can we not only fix Vista Del Mar, but stop caving in our city to NIMBY interests that keep streets dangerous and lead to not only unnecessary loss of life, but huge liability costs to the city?
I mean, you're right about the liability. Well, number one, that's awful, and a terrible tragedy to have repeated instances of death and injury. And I would agree with you on the kind of the travesty of that ongoing problem in that Vista Del Mar and other locations I know throughout the city. The liability payouts, and I know you know this, Michael, and others, were a large portion of what has put us in the budget situation in which we find ourselves. And so being able to, just from a pure budgetary sense, fix those problems will, in the long term, go towards making us help this area financially, apart from the greater kind of life-saving component of making our city and streets safer. So I want to echo kind of what I think is the priority we need there. I think we need to hear more from you all and other stakeholders and advocates. I mean, you know how this city functions and has functioned insofar as the projects that are proposed sort of run through approvals, and then in the instance that you mentioned, kind of hit headwinds from, as you remarked, kind of NIMBYism, and then are ultimately not able to move forward. I do think leadership can help to drive through that, but there needs to be, I think, a greater understanding on the part of residents, community members about the importance of those types of improvements. So I would kind of want to hold out partnership here in working with you and other stakeholders and moving forward those projects. The mayor's background, as you all know, is in organizing and is in community organizing. I mean, it is not her approach to sort of from on high dictate one solution or the other, but working with all stakeholders, all groups to address a problem when there is a problem. And clearly here there is a life-threatening problem, and it's been ongoing. So for this specific project and others, I would ask that you reach out and I know you know how to find me, Michael. But I would be happy, and our office would be happy to work with you on bringing forward improvements that upon which we can reach consensus.
Okay, thank you. Over to Josh for our last question, and then we'll go to the audience.
Thanks, Michael. So the last question is kind of closing out what we've been talking about. And that's the rumors around infrastructure ballot measures as one way to fix this budget deficit and all the different needs that we have in the city. We're hearing murmurs of a potential ballot measure for the 2026 election, or maybe multiple ballot measures that would raise money to move faster on repairing our sidewalks, fixing our streets, adding curb ramps, and more things that we don't seem to be able to afford right now. Are you supportive of this effort? And can you give us a little insight into kind of the conversations that are going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, a lot of conversations. You were right about that. I know the council has put together, at least one, maybe more motions on funding measures related to the fire department and infrastructure. I know at least a couple organizations have been speaking about measures or trying to explore interest in measures. I got Move LA, I think, sent a notice out. It's got the last couple of days. Parks and the expiration of the parks bond. I think there's interest around continuing that source of funding in some way in 2026. So there is, you were right, Josh, a good amount swirling. Maybe the first thing I just say is, you know, I'm not the mayor. I'm not Mayor Bass. I'm not the one who, you know, will ultimately be able to get behind this, that, or the other effort. I will say this though, you know, the needs are clearly there on our infrastructure front, both in our public right of way and, you know, much of what we talked about now, and, you know, our municipal facilities, including needs from our fire department. And so at this stage, it is sort of listening and assessment. I mean, we're in the thick, obviously, of finalizing the mayor's proposed budget. There are conversations, as I mentioned earlier, will be with, you know, our labor partners, with the state. Those will weigh in on, you know, what might ultimately be support for or against a ballot measure or for a funding measure of some sort. And so at this stage, assessment and listening is probably the, you know, the best answer I can give. And it is, you know, obviously evolving. There are a lot of conversations, and I think you'll see refinement, at least insofar as where the mayor weighs in as we sort of move forward through 2025 and emerge from the finalization of this year's budget.
Thank you. Okay. A few audience questions. The first one is, what proportion of your time is spent advising the mayor in her capacity leading the city versus in her capacity as a Metro board member? And how are the approaches different?
Very good question. They do all kind of merge together, to be totally honest. I'll try to explain that. I mean, I didn't know the mayor super well before I entered the office. Had a lot of colleagues who had worked with her in Sacramento. So as I did share that I was in Sacramento for about a decade working for the former governor. And, you know, Mayor Bass was speaker there. She had helped to, you know, lead what ultimately became our state kind of through the budget crisis at that time. And so I'd heard stories about that, heard a lot about that. We, you know, since then obviously begun to know her, come to her quite well. You know, some of the way in which we engage across the board is sort of, you know, one of the most precious components of I think any mayor's is their time, right? And so it's in any given day, week, or month, and every month more or less, with a few exceptions, there is a Metro board meeting. It's kind of what are the key priorities, the most contentious decisions. How does that impact both where she spends her time, both from a, you know, a public event standpoint and or a decision-making standpoint. And I see it as part of my role to determine, okay, what's a decision that with our transportation team, let's say a Metro decision, what's a decision that I feel confident I can, you know, also to say, make, knowing where the mayor stands from prior discussions versus, okay, no, this is a decision that I really do need to put on the mayor's radar, and she needs to be able to sort of say directly to me how, you know, how she wants to move or decide. And that you know, it changes, I think, from week to week or month to month, depending upon really the salience of the issue. Now, when we're talking about moving forward, you know, she was Metro chair in her first year, really kind of just after her first year. It seems like almost right away where she became Metro chair, and she was new to Metro, and there was, and including myself, you know, a lot of intake of not just information, but where Metro was at the time, the particular challenges of safety and, you know, unhoused people experience homelessness on our system, and that, as you can imagine, was sort of really dovetailed with the mayor's Inside Safe strategy and our efforts to house individuals. So I say all of that to say, there's been kind of this like little felt like a roller coaster in terms of the time that I spend advising the mayor and other things in Metro. In that first year and some change, it felt like it was like all the time, literally all the time, like almost every day there was something Metro or some decision or something, and I wasn't sure about like, I didn't know exactly where the mayor stood, and I was learning about how the mayor thought and acted. So some of it was like educating myself about, okay, maybe I can make this decision, but I don't feel confident making the decision without running it directly by Mayor Bass. And so a huge amount of time on Metro matters in that first year and some change, huge amount of time. It's become, I'd say a little bit less so as our team, myself, have gotten kind of more confident in just understanding the mayor's position on issues, how she would want us to act or move. And that's just required kind of less of the mayor's time, and also she's not chair, so that also takes off some of the burden. That doesn't mean it's not a priority; it just means it's sort of less time.
I'm going to try to get us through two last questions. I know we're running out of time. One's about street trees. How can we get Metro to respect our street trees infrastructure when they design? They rely on 2-to-1 replacements for the East San Fernando Valley Light Rail. They will cut down every single street tree on Van Nuys Boulevard for nearly 7 miles. They are narrowing the sidewalk by 2 feet where trees grow.
Wow. It is a lot. I project by project, I'd say, and this is sort of a more of a direct answer. We know that as the city, we, when it comes to items like protecting our trees, well, I should say, start with our master cooperative agreement. With our master cooperative agreement that we signed with Metro, newly minted here late last year, maintenance of trees and their protection was a prime item at that time. I know the history there, insofar as Metro's activities, not the best, as you've kind of noted in the question, but work with us. I mean, we need to be kind of strong advocates at the table, along with the other, usually if it's, yes, the city of LA, but kind of the other board members tend to weigh in one way or the other. So I'd say, help us applying the needed, I don't want to say sort of, pressure is one word, but also argument to ensure that those improvements are made, and that we avoid loss of tree canopy when there are ways to do so. So I would say that. Other than that, I'd want to know a little bit more about the specific project. So I don't know who asked that question, but disconcerting to say the least about what some of the actions that you're saying that Metro is going to take with those trees. So I would ask maybe that you email me more information. Hopefully, Michael, you can share my contact information. Anyone should feel free to please contact me.
Thank you. Do you have time for one last question?
Absolutely.
Okay. Last year, the legislature passed AB 3177. It was actually one of our sponsored bills to stop spot roadway widening, where a developer has to pay to give up their land to expand the roadway, which leads to inconsistent streets. However, we have several examples where the city planning department is not honoring this and is getting direction from management that this doesn't apply somehow. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but wanted to give you a chance to just talk about spot widening, and assuming it does, state law does apply in the city of LA, what we might be able to do to make sure city planning is actually honoring the state law.
Aware of the law, not aware of the instances of which you speak. Planning is, I think, as you intimated, planning, I don't have direct purview over planning, so I'm not always as cued into everything that they are doing. But I now would absolutely like to learn more about how, purportedly they are not abiding by the new state law. So I guess similarly, if whoever asked that question, if you could send me a bit more information, I can track it down and hopefully correct what would be, if they are in fact running afoul of the new state law or arguing a different interpretation. I want to better understand what that is.
Thank you. Yeah, we're have spoken with this developer, so we can send you some more information. We're aware of this.
Please.
I want to be respectful of your time. I know we're over time. Any final parting words you would like to give to a bunch of advocates who work really hard to make the streets safer here?
Yes. Push us, push me. Yeah, I know it is. You all are at the tip of the spear in many ways, insofar as what peer cities are doing, what LA should be doing, what we are not doing. This is a difficult job, but I'm here because I not only want to be, but because I believe in LA and what we can and ought to be. But I can appreciate the fact that sometimes I get my own little blinders on because I've got this or that fire to put out or to react to. And so your help in helping myself, the mayor, kind of keep our eyes on the vision for what LA can and ought to be when it comes to our streets and our transportation system and the leadership that our city has shown, keeping us honest and keeping us accountable. That would be my last charge. My contact information, please make it available, email and cell phone. If I don't call you back right away, I'll get to you as soon as I can, whenever that is possible for me to do so. I always appreciate the conversation and, you know, bringing directly whatever issue you feel is not being addressed sufficiently. And I know that there's a lot. But the more that I can hear about it and work to address it, the better.
Well, Randall, I really want to thank you for your time. We know you're super busy. You have a really important role in the city with regards to what we at Streets for All and our audience cares about. So thank you for being here. Thank you for speaking so candidly. And I want to wish everybody a good night.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
Good night.